Hello, Goddess. Welcome back. This is Andrea with You, Our Mind, Body, Soul, where I guide goddesses to bridge the mind, body, and soul through psychosomatic education, consciousness reconditioning, as well as goddess alchemy. I bridge the magical and the mundane, and I work with divine feminine energy. I'm a life coach, goddess life coach, as well as a professional aerialist. Welcome to my channel. Before I get deep into this topic of the day, I want to remind you to please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to all of my new subscribers. I appreciate you sharing this space with me. But if you could press that like button and share, it will help me to get to 100 followers, which is happening faster than I thought it would. And that way I can start to come on live and share with you some extra content outside of these Monday transmissions. So come on in, get comfortable, grab yourself something to drink. Today I have a little lemon ginger green tea with a little extra lime in it. So that's what I'm sipping on today. I'm not sure what I want to title this video. I'm finding that if I record the content and then I decide what the topic of the video is later, I'm able to get a little bit more creative with this clickbait. So I'm not sure what I'm going to call it today, but I do want to let you know that the inspiration for this video today has come from some conversations that I've been having with women as well as clients lately about just this desire to have a lifestyle that is a little bit different than what they have right now. And the subject has been inspired from actually living and work life and what they're doing for a living. You know, women that are working jobs, but somehow feel that calling that they were meant to be working for themselves in some kind of capacity. So you may be someone that finds that you are very talented, or you know that you could be more talented in something, and you're looking at how you are spending your life, what you're doing for work, how you're passing your time, you know, throughout the days, and you have this longing or this desire for something else. This video is for you. I was initially going to call it how to start over in life, but I'm not sure if that's what I'm going for. I have my journal here with my notes as usual. So if you see me looking down, that is what I am looking for. We are officially into the fall season, which feels so incredible. Things are shifting. This is the divine feminine season. And if you're on my email list, which is linked below, you'll know that I'm always talking about cycles and rhythms of life and how as we go throughout the seasons, we want to be mindful and we want to be aware of these things. And I also sometimes send out content on astrological transits as well, because I am a astrology enthusiast and I'm all about that goddess alchemy. So when we are in tune with what's happening with the planet and we are aware and we incorporate that into the rhythm of our personal flow, we're able to bring more awareness to these cycles and changes in life, and we can really activate our alchemy to make this whole thing easier. It is a little warm in here because it's a humid day outside, but I can't open up the windows because it's noisy. So you may see me fanning myself a little bit. I'm sorry. Well, excuse me. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with how to start over in life. So you may find yourself at a crossroads in life where you know that by the end of next year, right now, we're moving into the final quarter of 2023, and you know that a year from now, you don't want your life, you don't want to be doing the same work that you're doing, or you are comfortable with the work that you're doing and you're trying to transition into something that feels more satisfying. This is what I mean by start over. And the first thing that I have here is mindset in your belief system. So in previous conversations, and please feel free to check out any of my other videos, we've talked about how powerful your mindset is, specifically when it comes to your belief system, because your belief systems are going to govern your behavior. So when we're thinking about making these huge transitions in life, like how we work, where we live, how we present ourselves, what are our identities, what we do for a living, how we find satisfaction in life. We want to be thinking about the fact that we are never starting over. So, the number one most important thing to recognize when you are making big changes in your life is that you are never starting over. Okay. Everything that you have learned up to this date, all of your experiences, your education, they have value, which means that when you are stepping into the unknown, a brand new chapter in your life, you are not negating all of those things that have come before you. I'll give you my life for an example. I started off as a pre-med student. I took the MCAT and everything. I pretty much knew what medical school I was going to get accepted into. And somewhere along the process, I was already working in medicine. I was working in emergency medicine for 7 years. I knew all about that system. I had done internships and things like that. And somewhere along the process of applying for medical school, I realized that it wasn't for me. And this was my very first dark night of the soul, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about that in like Scorpio season, the topic of shadow work and dark night of the soul. But when I realized that that identity no longer suited me, being a pre-med student, being on the path of becoming a doctor, I had to shift my identity and it felt like I was starting over. Okay. And I've talked about the process of what happens when our identity starts to shift and how the ego, which is the voice, the recording that's always going on in our head, painting our reality for us, starts to come online and it starts to freak out because it wants to keep itself safe. And all I knew at the time was how to be a pre-med student, how to think with my logical mind, and how to follow along a pre-beaten path, a pre-prescribed path for myself, so to speak. So when I decided that I no longer wanted to be a pre-med student, I had to take the time to find out things that were, more appeasing to me, more appealing to me from a deeper level of, okay, you need to check off this box, get this degree, and then go on down the line of this predestined path. And you may be in a career right now where this is something that you've been familiar with, you've been doing it for a long time, or maybe you have been even like a stay-at-home mother, for example, and all you know is the identity of being a mother and being a parent, and now you want to start your own business. It requires an identity shift. Perhaps you have lived in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, and you have traveled like myself, and you have had to find different jobs in order to get by and support your lifestyle of being a wanderer. But now you realize that you don't want to work for the same job or in the same kind of a career, and you want that independence. I feel like there is a movement of women where we are awakening to recognizing that we have certain gifts, and just society as a whole, with technology and our ability to have access to all of this information at our fingertips, makes it so completely feasible and so possible for you to be able to thrive with doing what you're passionate with. Okay. And so what I want to do is just kind of break this down into some simple, applicable guidance that you can use. So we're starting with the mindset. I was a pre-med student and then I became a dancer, a personal trainer. Okay. So as I was working with women and being a personal trainer, I could take my scientific background, my logical background to create programs and facilitate those processes for women. So the first question that I have for you is, as you're making this transition, is what education and what experience as well as inspiration. So it doesn't always have to be that concrete, tangible, masculine paradigm things. So when you're making the transition, you don't want to think about, well, everything has to fit onto a resume, like checking off boxes. This is a very masculine paradigm of approaching shift. And when you are shifting out of a lifestyle that is incredibly structured, in other words, that clock in, clock out work 5 days a week, rest 2 days a week kind of lifestyle, kind of masculine paradigm. You want to start to use other aspects of your being and call forth those things, such as desire. So the question is, what inspires you outside of your education and outside of those concrete, tangible skills that you have to bring to the table? Which I want you to think about those and start to create that list, but also ask yourself, what actually inspires you? Okay. And also, what are you naturally good at? I was listening to this clip from Erica Badu the other day, and she was saying very quite simply, whatever it is you are good at, you can easily make that your calling in life. It was something to that effect of find the thing that comes most easiest to you and become a master of it. And I thought that that was such a beautiful statement because I can look at my life and I could say, as a dancer and as a mover, whether it be as an athlete or whether it be with dance, that this is something that comes very natural to me, as well as working with and inspiring and encouraging and educating and supporting and guiding women. This all comes natural for me. Okay. So, what might that be for you in your journey? And how does that inspire you? How can you bring that into your life and make that an active form of inspiration in how you find your path and how you choose to take your journey in life? Okay. So, all of these things are going to contribute to your next level, into your next stage. Okay. So, there are going to be times where you know exactly what that looks like for you. So, for example, I've always known that I was going to use my voice to move, to create movement, and to inspire women to create transformation in their lives. I've always known that it's going to be through my voice and that is going to be through my body and my energy. So, mind, body, and soul, and just the way that I show up for my life. Okay. So for you, you may have like this clear image or role of what it is you choose or what it is you desire, or it may just show up in the form of a desire. Okay. So I want you to recognize like what path are you on, whether it's something like very specific. Okay, or if it's something that is more abstract or more of just a desire. Okay. And kind of, recognizing, is this something that I'm very clear in, that I know exactly what it's going to be, or is it something that is not so clear? Okay. And the next step is to start to seek more clarity on that thing through self-education. Okay. And you can take any one of my courses and stay on this channel to get more of that self-education, join the email list, check out the courses and all that good stuff. Okay. But you want to be investing in yourself and investing in your self-education. Okay. A lot of times we find ourselves investing in other people's ideas of what life should be. But what I want to encourage you to do is to go through a self exploration and self discovery process and get really clear about who you are. And that is one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about what I do, is because throughout the course of my life, again, living in that masculine paradigm of going through the masculine system, where you are being educated to memorize things rather than to explore and to question things. And to just go along this beaten path. But I was very fortunate at the end of my pre-med degree to shift into interdisciplinary studies, which at the time was considered that degree that you get when you don't know what else you want to do, right? but it actually worked out in my favor. And remember, in the previous video, we talked about using the statement that everything is working in my favor. And that video got over 300 views, which I think is incredible. I was not expecting that, being such a new channel. I'm so grateful for that, for the pleasant surprise. But we want to be knowing and recognizing and programming ourselves that everything is working for you. Okay. So you're going to start to get education. And what I was saying was is that I'm so passionate about what I do is because when I decided to step off of the beaten path, which was wearing me out, it was depressing me, it was making me feel disconnected from my true purpose and just from my humanity as a whole. Like I wanted to take my life at that time when I was going through that dark night of the soul. I had to start to go and I had to start to ask different questions. And I had to start to find out and discover things about myself that are deeper than, well, what do you want to do for a living? And where do you like deeper? Like, what is your actual constitution? And inside of the Feminine Alchemy and Freedom Activator course, I give you so many tools and I ask you so many questions that are going to give you clarity on who you are. Because at the end of the day, sometimes it's not about sometimes it's not about the answer. One thing that I've learned is that it is actually about, are you asking the right questions? Because the questions that you ask are then going to take you down a particular path. Okay. And you could spend years of your life asking the wrong questions and looking in the wrong places. So in the Feminine Alchemy and Freedom course, I show you exactly where to look so that you can get in tune with your own personal rhythm and your own personal identity that is deeper than the surface. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you a sense of confidence and a sense of self-knowing so that you can confidently take the next step on your path. Okay. So let me see what I have here next. Okay. So the next step, once we start to reset our mindset, as far as taking that next step and starting that transition, because once you get started, it is going to be a process. It's not an overnight effect. Okay. And it does require courage again, because the ego is so strong in its ability to hold us inside of one paradigm, which is why you're going to want to be doing a lot of work on shifting your internal vibration. Because again, that's how we control the whole reality, is through our vibration and through how we are looking at life. Okay. A wise person once told me when I was young, and this shaped my whole life, is the more that you look at something, the more that a thing changes. So the more that you look at something, the more that you look at yourself in dynamic ways and new perspectives, the more that you're going to change. Okay. And the more that you change from the inside out, the more your reality is going to start to shift. So the next step is, once you get your mindset right and you decide that, you want to take this process of self-discovery and you want to start to find out these new things about yourself, because at the end of the day, it's not about what the actual destination is, right? It's about the journey. It's about the self-growth and the self-love. And the deeper that you have that connection with yourself, the greater you're going to be able to show up in a capacity. And that investment, that self-investment, speaks for itself. Okay. So the next thing that you're going to do is start to do work on what is limiting you. Okay. So two things. You want to take it from two perspectives. Okay. You want to first think about what is inside of your reality, in your reality screen of life, that you feel is a limiting factor in wherever you are. Okay. Your circumstantial things. Okay. You want to look at your circumstantial things and you want to see kind of where you feel, where you are having the weaknesses at in your life. Where are those weaknesses showing up? And where are those things that you feel are limiting you? Okay. This is the external environment, right? Get clear about it. You can write it down. And then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to look at your internal environment, which is your mindsets and your habits and everything that you can control from the inside out. And you want to ask yourself, what behaviors, thoughts, and actions can I take to start to create shift from the inside out? Because all is self. And again, as above, so below. We are goddess alchemists. So we recognize that we are the source of potential for our whole lives. And we want to be using empowering thoughts and empowering statements so that we can get that consciousness activation and we can start to see change. So once you start to identify the things in your external reality, and then you bring them back to ask yourself, how can I take responsibility? Next question is, how can I take responsibility for what is showing up in my physical reality? So at one point along your path, you chose to have that relationship. You chose to sign that contract. You chose to live in that space. Ask yourself, how can I take responsibility for what is showing up in my external reality? Okay. Because you want to have the autonomy and you want to be responsible for your life. Anytime you choose to not accept the responsibility for what is happening in your environment by knowing that you made that choice to start on that path, you are disempowering yourself. Okay. And I want you to feel strong in your ability to have control over your faculties, your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, your actions, and your behaviors. Okay. This is how we empower ourselves and we fill ourselves up with that necessary light in order to feel full enough and courageous enough to walk these uncertain paths that are always, I promise you, they will always yield incredible positive results. The scarier the path is, the more juicy that internal desire is, the greater, the more beautiful that result is. So you want to ask yourself, how can I get this perceived limitation behind me? Sometimes that limitation, that perceived limitation, can be minimized just by accepting responsibility that you made a choice. And you made that choice to the best of your ability based on the knowledge, the information, and the experience that you had at that time. Okay. And although there are parts of you that are outgrowing that situation or circumstance or reality, it still had its purpose at that time, which is why we don't want to simply just be rejecting things, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Guys, I don't really know what that means, but y'all know what I mean when I say that. I never really got that analogy. That must be like like a 1925 analogy. It's really funny, but you know what I mean. Okay. So you want to recognize that you always have choice. Okay. And the Mind, Body, Soul 14-day reset course is going to attune you with your biological rhythm throughout the year cycles. It's a nutritionally founded course, but it also teaches you how to recognize your masculine and feminine paradigms, choices and behaviors and energy, okay, throughout the year. And by recognizing these things, we're going to be able to take more responsibility for our needs and for our desires and how we show up. Okay. Alrighty. So the next question that I have for you is, once you start to get these things behind you and you start to get real about your present circumstances, as you're looking at the paradigms that you want to shift, and as you're looking at the person that you desire you want to be and the path that you would like to now go on, you've looked at all of the things, the supporting factors that you have, whether it be just that simple desire, motivating, moving desire pulling you forward, whether it be your education or your past experience, and trying to figure out or energetically process and creatively come up with a way in which that is going to serve you in your next step. I want you to ask yourself, who do I get to be? Because I love this statement. I love this question. It's, who do I get to be? Okay. It's like you are gifting yourself with your greatest and wildest desires. Just feel into that. Who do I get to be? Ask yourself that, write it down, meditate on it, and allow that energy of the potential of that person to fill you up. So it should be an expansive thing. This is not a mental act. It's more of an energetic vibration, okay? Because the thing about shifting paradigms, which we talk about in the course, and changing paths and stepping onto new paths in life, is that oftentimes energetically, we are full, which is why the idea for this person that you want to be came into mind in the first place. It's already there. Any idea that you have is something that has already existed in the quantum infinite realm. It's already a reality. So when you ask yourself the question of who do I get to be, and you go into your heart space about it and not your head, right? Because we want to be aligned in alignment as goddesses with the vibration of our heart centers, not the mind. The mind is only going to take you so far. When you ask yourself, who do I get to be? And you just let that fill up your heart center, and you let your imagination run wild with that, that is going to expand you. Okay. And energetically, typically, the way that the different realities work, the 3D reality, the fifth dimensional reality works, is that energetically we are already in these spaces. But then what happens is the ego, the mind, that masculine energy, then puts a cap on what we think that we're capable of, which is why the work all comes from the inside. The mind should be a tool, but oftentimes we are trained, again, from the educational system, the work system, which is very similar to the educational system, to only think inside of these box outline paradigms. Okay. But when we really allow our heart spaces to be activated, to call in that desire, which is then going to fuel your faith, and then your faith fuels your focus, you're able to physically and materially align with that path, regardless of whatever it's going to look like. So the logical mind does not need to be doing all that work and trying to put it together, okay? Unless you're already in a place where you know exactly what it is, where you're on the path and you're like, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I know this for a fact. Then you can start to use a bit of the logical mind, that masculine energy, to fuel the structure and into how you get there. But when you are trying to step out of the lifestyle, or step into the lifestyle that in which you desire, okay, you really want to be in attune with what your heart desires, so that when it shows up in your reality in whatever form it may be, it could be a friend asking you for a service, asking you for something that you're good at, it could be a random opportunity that shows up and you happen to be very good at it. When you allow your heart to be open vibrationally, whenever something that comes into alignment with that person that you are becoming, because you have already identified that that thing energetically within your heart system, and which expands out, several feet beyond you, the vibration of your actual heart body, and the electrical system and the electrical impulse that your heart center gives off. When it comes into alignment in your reality, because you sat with yourself and you have done that work of quieting the ego, And recognizing that energetically, you'll be able to say, oh, boom, this opportunity is exactly what I was trying to call in, exactly what I was trying to manifest. And this is how manifestation work, how it goes. And this is what I teach in the course at a very deep level. Okay. So ask yourself, who do I get to be? Especially if you were fully supported. If you were fully supported, if the universe fully supported you and everything that you desired, who would you get to be? Yeah. All right. So the next thing that I want to talk about is, while you are going through this process, this goddess devotional process of self-discovery, discovering who you are, doing research about your personality, your energy system. I love human design as a great marker for identity development. I talk a little bit about human design in my Feminine Alchemy and Freedom course, Human Design. Astrology is wonderful, but it's kind of just a start point for the entirety of our being and ways in which we can understand who we are and how we function in life. But Eneology is incredible for self-discovery, and so is human design. For example, I'll give you an example of, understanding who you are and understanding who you are, like my mentor always says. Okay. When I found out that I was a human design generator, this means that I am basically like the Energizer Bunny of the human design characters. Okay. It means that I have a tremendous amount of energy. I can pretty much outwork anyone. But the caveat is that I have to be putting my energy into something that I'm passionate about, which is why corporate jobs have not worked out for me, right? In the past, okay? Like, I have so much energy and I'm a passionate person and I have a ton of focus and capability when it comes to something that I'm really, really into. But a large part of my life, I allowed myself to be the battery and the workhorse, let's say, for other people's companies, other people's visions. Okay. And it wasn't until I learned that as a human generator, a human design generator, that my passionate, endless appearing energy needs to be directed into something that fuels me and fills me up. Otherwise, I feel like dead on the inside. It is completely demoralizing and it is completely de-energizing. Okay. So there are, I think, 33% of the world's population is a human design generator. Okay. Which is why the system works out so well for people, the average person that is out of tune with their own personal rhythm and authentic vibration, is because as a generator, I will start a project or I will agree to show up for someone, show up for a job without question. And then it just becomes like this track. Now you're on this track. Now you're a full steam ahead, full steam ahead engine. And you're just like, next thing you know, you're just burnt out. Then that was me for a long time until I learned that I have to make sure that my energy systems are vital with what turns me on, what really turns me on. And then the other important thing to understand is that because we are working with our divine feminine energy, which is a fluid process, is that we also want to be adaptable. Okay. One of the strengths of feminine energy and femininity is to be adaptable. Just like I always talk about water, and you can look at my video on feminine versus masculine energy and how water kind of moves with the flow of whatever is holding it. We want to look at our environment and what is happening kind of in the world, or at least what's happening in our immediate world. And we want to activate a certain level of awareness in order to be able to realize that you are capable of showing up in whatever environment it is you feel you may want to be in based upon your observations. So, as goddesses, we have this higher awareness, or we are learning to cultivate this higher awareness of what is happening in life in order to kind of predict trends. And you can go on YouTube and you can kind of just be aware of what's going on in the world to be able to predict trends. Like, it is no secret that online education is something that is really growing. You can go online, pretty much YouTube or anywhere, and learn in full detail about anything that you're passionate about. Okay, and there's a trend where we are relying more and more on online resources and technology to educate and to guide us. So you want to be using these skills, okay? Pluto is going into the sign of Aquarius for like the next 10 or 15 years. So just with that alone, you can know that, I want to be somewhere in this online arena, right? When it comes to like being an entrepreneur, if you're not actively an entrepreneur yet, you need to be using online, using technology to support you, okay? Because the other thing about being the divine feminine is that we want it to be easy. So if that gives you agita, if it gives you anxiety, the thought of becoming technologically savvy, don't let it stress you out. Don't let it stress you out. I want you to remember that it can be easy for you, okay? And that process is going to work for you. Okay. And once you tell yourself that this is who I get to be, whatever that thing is, okay, you could be an equestrian trainer, someone that trains people how to ride horses, just to use a random example. I love horses, so I don't know why that example's coming up, but it sounds fun. And maybe you never rode a horse a day in your life, okay? But you can go online, you can research things, you can go and ride a horse, take some horse lessons. You know what I'm saying? So take that step to allow yourself to become closer and closer physically in alignment with that in which you desire. Once you identify what it is you desire, whether it be consciously clear and defined, or whether it be just an energetic thing, a desire, okay? Because a lot of times before we actually know what that thing is that we want, it doesn't even exist. It doesn't even exist at that point sometimes. Like, I always saw myself, teaching. I never knew that I would be doing it full time online. I thought that I would have to be teaching in front of large groups of people. That was a decade ago. I thought that it was going to be a physical thing. Okay. And lo and behold, society had to catch up. Internet had to become popular. Online courses and education had to become popular in order for me to realize that I could have large groups of people, but never have to leave the comfort of my home. But of course, I do want to do retreats and things like that. Be on the lookout for that coming up in the future. I'm manifesting it. Let's manifest it together. Okay. But you want to be adaptable. You want to be adaptable with what's happening with the world. You want to be adaptable to what's going on in your environment until you come to a place where you have completely outgrown that thing, which is another topic. Okay. So next up, let's talk about how your expression is congruent with your career, which is congruent with your passion. So just as we were talking about before, there is something that you have, some kind of unique, authentic form of expression, some kind of gift. You can write it down. What am I most talented at? You should know. What am I most passionate about? Ask yourself. Like, what comes easiest for me? What is my favorite skill? Just asking yourself these things, okay? To come closer and closer. No, I don't want this. I'm sorry, this needs to be like on do not disturb. Hopefully that doesn't interrupt the video. My apologies. Okay. So asking yourself questions like, how can I generate income in a way that feels aligned? Because it's not always about just that monetary figure, the money. It's about doing things that feel ethical, that feel authentic to you and to who you are, which will effortlessly attract those things to you. Okay. A lot of people are stuck on the survival paradigm and needing to just make money to get by check to check. When what you really need to do is to stop working yourself so much and to get quiet and to slow down and to really think about your resources as something other than money. Okay. We've grown to a point where we've given money way too much power and way too much control over our lives, and we're not really thinking about how are we actually generating our power through other resources such as time, personal investment, and energy. We're just stuck on the money paradigm, okay? And that needs to be healed collectively, okay? The next question is, what would my life look like if I was living in a place that fully honors my identity? Because a lot of times, we can find ourselves in locations or communities that we are no longer in alignment with. I've been there on many occasions when I lived in Florida. I was like, I know that I have like there are different people that I'm supposed to be aligned with, that I'm supposed to be around, that I'm supposed to learn from, and I feel very limited by living in this state with people that have this kind of mindset. Okay. And as soon as I moved up north, the pace of living up north, the openness and mindset, people are just a lot more open, a lot more educated, a lot more successful. Nothing against Florida, you know, but it was in alignment with me and it honored who I was. I'm a go getter. I like to have my life a certain way. I like to move at a certain pace, a certain cadence. That is where I belonged. Okay. And you may want to look up something like astrocartography if you're thinking about moving somewhere else. And you can check out my friend, I think her page is called Muted Earth Virgo or something like that. When I find her, I'll try to tag her in. You may want to look up something like astrocartography if you're looking to move somewhere different and you're not sure where that place could be. Okay. But again, all these things require courage. It required courage for me to move up here. I didn't know anyone up here. It was just me. And you can look at previous videos to find out more about my story. I don't want to go on a tangent or a rant, but like I had to move, I didn't know what that was going to bring. I never experienced winter before. And it was wild. It was fun. I have no regrets though. It was a game changer. Sometimes you need to pick up and just move locations. Okay. Alrighty. So let me look at the rest of my notes. So what is going to fully honor the person that you get to be? So once you decide who do I get to be, okay, and what she looks like, what she does for a living, the kind of income that she gets to have, who she gets to be around, the people with the certain mindsets that you're looking for. All those things, get creative with it. The more that you can immerse yourself in this ideology, in that experience vibrationally, the more real it becomes for you. Okay. And it's important because right now what we're talking about is manifestation, really, which is all inner work. Okay. And it's important to recognize that once you start to identify these things, you want to give the universe time to process that order. So a really great analogy that came up to me when I was thinking of what I wanted to say for this video was like when you take a picture. So let's say that the idea that you have for your identity is this picture that you have in your mind. okay? Where, like, the place where you are, the people that you're surrounded with, the kind of money that you get to have, the kind of things that you get to do on a daily basis. Like, for example, a couple days out of the week that I don't wake up to an alarm, I get to sleep in, I get to ease into my day. Like, I need that lifestyle. That's important. I'm never going to give that up. No matter how much I work, no matter how successful I become, I'm going to have my goddess mornings where I get to ease into my day. I'm going to travel. I'm going to spend time in nature. I'm going to always be in a creative space. Okay. But once you get that picture, what you want to do is give life time to process and develop the film, right? So the picture, the idea, the desire is that initial click. And then you get those films, and they have to be processed in that black room. They've got to be in the water, and I'm not a photographer, so I don't really know what the details are, but when you see in the movies how they're like processing the film, and then like it comes out and it's like a physical material picture, like that. Okay, so that's the analogy that I'm talking about. That's how manifestation work is. So you have this idea, you have this desire, you hold on to it, you find it vibrationally in your heart space. Okay. You can do a dream board, get creative with it, write it down, speak on it, make it a part of your beliefs, make those habits, those physical behaviors in alignment with those things. Okay. And then you let the universe develop those films, brings in those people that are in alignment, those opportunities that come in, that shift things. And then finally you get that physical outcome, that picture, okay, which is the material manifestation of that thing, of that lifestyle, of that new paradigm. But you have to be patient for the development of these things to happen. A lot of people, they are always expecting instant gratification. It's a terrible habit that spending too much time on media and spending too much time being caught up in other people's world, and rather than building your own world, will take you off of the path of getting that material result. Okay. It's super important. And when I realized it, when I found out, when I really started to get deep into manifestation work, and I stopped being attached to what I was seeing in my life and those perceived external limitations, when I stopped fixating on those things, and I started to take responsibility for my own personal vibration, which is what all of these videos will help to teach you to do. And if you really just want to iron it out and get very clear about all this stuff and invest in yourself, again, the Feminine Alchemy and Freedom Activator course is available for you. Okay. They're game changers. All right. So remember that there is always going to be a transition, which is going to be an identity upgrade, which is when your beliefs and your actions are in alignment with the future that you are becoming. So that's all I have on this topic. I hope that it was super helpful for you today. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Please comment below if you're feeling the content. And I hope to see you in the next one. One love. Mwah.